The last couple of weeks, we've been kind of following the same line of just breaking down a new part in the sales process. So we went from connection, situation or the discovery, went problem impact, future state. Last week we did needs anchor. So for the next 2 weeks, what we're going to be focusing on is closing the deal. So basically all of the obstacles. How do you actually overcome all of the obstacles? Talking from there on actually like the closing process. How do you present the offer? What does the commitment phase need to look like? All of that good stuff. So this one will be one of the shorter ones. We've been rolling for the last couple of weeks. They've been taking like 30, 45 minutes. So this one will likely be a good bit shorter. And so if you guys have general business questions, make sure you have your hand ready to go up, and we'll go into a good bit of Q&A today. Because this one should only take about 20 to 30 minutes. All right. So let's do a recap of what we talked about last week. Last week was needs anchor, right? So we talked about, finding out what are they trying to accomplish, getting the tangibles. So what are they actually trying to do, right? So maybe they're trying to move down to Florida. Are they buying? Are they renting? Then we talk about how much money do they need to be able to do that. We go and frame on their side before we go into the anchor. We go back to the result. Why do you feel like that might work for you? Undeniable truth. That's the most important thing. And then the last thing is, do you see how? All right. So if you guys didn't watch last week, I highly recommend you go watch the recording. What we're going to focus on this week is from the do you see how. Now, I had a question inside the school community. I think it was Jared that asked this. What if you go in and you say, do you see how this would put you in a better position? And they say no. Then from there, what you have to do is you have to figure out what would be the bottom dollar that would put them in a better position, right? So let's say, for example, seller says they need $100,000 to move to their next house. And you do the frame, you go to the anchor, and you say, let's say that all the offers came back at 50. Could you still be able to buy it? And they were like, well, I could. And you say, why do you feel like you could? Like, well, because I could put 10% down instead of 20. And then the seller says, and then you ask the final question, that's the most important thing. They say yes. And you go, so do you see how if we could get 50,000 in your pocket, that would actually put you in a better position? Now, if you do all of that right, Jared, I'm answering your question specifically. If you do all of that correctly, it's very unlikely they're going to say no to that, right? You just showed them the way, right? Very unlikely that they're going to say no. However, if they do still say no, they're like, no, I still don't see how that would actually help me. You just go, okay, well, what did you really need then? Like, what did you actually need in your pocket? And if they stay firm with that $100,000, that's fine. We'll have to handle some of that in objection handling. All right. But ideally right here, do you see how this would actually put you in a better position? Do you see how this would help you do that? They say yes. Now, have any of you guys type in a 1 in the chat if you ever asked the seller, when do you want to get this done? And they say, I'm in no rush. Type in a 1 in the chat if that's ever happened to you. So you say, when do you want to get this property sold? Or ideally, what's your time frame? You ask something like that, and they go, oh, I'm in no rush. All right. Now let's imagine that we already have problem impact. We already have future state. All right. So somebody in the chats, give me a problem impact and future state from a call you guys have had in the last week. I'll give you guys some time to type it out. Problem impact, future state of a call you had in the last week. I see some keyboards clicking. You guys are slow typers. All right, 5 more seconds before I just give my own. Eli, you want to come off mute and just tell me one? That works.
Yeah, I'm just curious about getting the contract signed. I'm just getting a lot of last minute objections.
Okay, so we're gonna go over that in a second. Give me a problem impact in a future state for like somebody that you had. Oh, there we go. Barely able to. Okay, perfect. So now I got you guys. You guys typed it. So barely able to pay their bills, behind on their mortgage, wants to purchase a plot of land in Wyoming. Good job, Hayden. That's a really good problem impact future state. Dominic says just received foreclosure notice. Wasn't ready to give up the house. I wouldn't really say that that's future state, but let's go with Hayden, right? Hayden has a really good one. wants to purchase a plot of land in Wyoming. So watch the difference between these two questions. Okay, so ideally, when did you want to buy that piece of land in Wyoming? Or ideally, when did you want to sell this property? All right, that's scenario one. Scenario two is, and look, I know this is really important for you. How soon would you actually like to own that piece of land so that way you don't have to worry about these bills anymore? How soon would you like to get to the next property so that way you don't have to worry about the stress of these high mortgage payments, right? Which one do you guys think is going to build more urgency? How soon would you like to do this so you don't have to worry about XYZ? Or what's your timeline on getting this done? Yeah, 100% number two, right? And so the reason that we want to ask it that way is we want to avoid any of the objections like, I am just going to, oh, I'm in no rush. I'm going to take my time. If we can get a real problem impact, right? A real problem impact, like, oh, I really need to be close to my kids because I'm missing out on all their birthdays, or, this house is in bad condition and I need to get somewhere nicer, or the house has a bunch of stairs and it's starting to affect my knees and I need to move into a senior living facility. If I get a real problem impact, then I say, well, how soon would you actually like to be, in the living room with your kids and your new property? Oh, they're going to say, I'd like to be there as soon as possible, right? And that's the answer that you're looking for inside of your obstacles, right? Inside of your time frame is you're trying to shorten that gap as far as time frame. And this is going to happen like even if you get a timing objection, your timing objections like, hey, call me back in a week, call me back in a month. You should always be trying to compress those time frames. And so if I have a seller that wants to sell in 90 days, I want to see if I can compress the time frame even faster to want to sell right now. And I do that by I build my urgency, I build my future state. Then when I ask the time frame, I ask them, how soon would you actually like to be in Florida so you don't have to worry about all the politics with Governor Newsom? Oh, I'd like to be there ASAP, right? All right, perfect. How fast is ASAP? Is it like 2-3 weeks? Yeah, like ideally 3 weeks. And this is how we condense timelines. Type in a 1 in the chat if you guys have that. Let me come off mute if you do not understand it. You have questions about that. Looks like everybody's getting it. All right, cool. All right, so once you have the timeline, I was reviewing a call with my team earlier, and I realized something that that was done incorrectly, and so I corrected it and we role played it a few times. Is once you have the time frame, you need to stress test that time frame. So, like for example, if you ask this question and you say, "Hey, so ideally, when would you like, or how soon would you like to be at your new property so you don't have to deal with XYZ?" A lot of times they're going to give you a very quick time frame. I would like to be there in 2 weeks. I like to get this done in 3 weeks. Now you have to stress test that. You're like, look, that's certainly something we can help out with. I just want to make sure, are you sure you're going to be able to get all of your stuff out there? You're going to be able to move to your next property in the next 2 to 3 weeks. Now, somebody come off mute and tell me, why would we ask that question? Why is that an important question to ask?
For commitment?
Commitment? Yeah, it's pretty close to that. Like, what I want to find out is, are they going to give me any obstacles there? And so what can happen is if you go to the time frame and you say, hey, how soon do you want to get this done? They're like 2 weeks. And you skip that question. What you might get when you present the offer is it might sound like a think about it objection. They're like, yeah, I just need a little bit more time. I need to think about it. I don't want to make a rash decision. And then you find out what's behind that. And it's really that, well, I have a lot of stuff in this house and I don't know what I'm going to do with it. Or I have this boat in the backyard and I have to sell that first. Or I have a XYZ thing that I have to get done before I actually sell the property. Right. So we want to really stress test that. Hey, like I know you've been here for the last 35 years. Are you sure you're going to be able to get all your stuff out there in the next 2 to 3 weeks? Do you need any help with that? What do you feel like might come up that would prevent you, right? Let's say it's there's tenants in the property. Are you sure that they're going to be able to get out in the next 2 to 3 weeks, right? If it's a vacant property, but it was inherited. Hey, I'm sure there's some memories. Are you sure your family's going to be able to get all of the memories out of there, the stuff they want to keep in that 2 to 3 weeks? Or do you think you're going to need some more time? And so we need it to be their idea, right? And we need them to really think about that to go, hey, is that going to come up as a concern later, or is that something we can solve right now? Right? And so if you do not do this, what ends up happening is you're going to get an objection later, and it's going to be a fucking ridiculous pain in the ass objection that you didn't even need to get. So be like, think about it. It's like, what'd you need to think about? Well, I have this I need to do, and I have to talk to this person and this, right? If you stress test it right here, you're going to avoid a lot of that. And I forgot who it was that just came off mute that asked a question that said something about getting a lot of objections at the end. Who was that? Was that?
That was me.
Eli. Yeah. A lot of this, bro, comes from the things that we're covering right now is, stress testing and we're going to go over stress testing commitment next week. And so most of the objections are prevented. You're not trying to overcome them. You're trying to prevent them. And so like, give me an example of some of the objections that you've got besides the price, because that goes back to problem impact. Like besides price, what else are you getting?
The big objection I'm getting is like, I'm not in front of my computer right now. So like we agree on price, we agree they're ready to close. And then I'll go, okay, like what would the next steps be? Like, okay, like let's get this closed out. I'm like, okay, are you in front of your computer? I'm busy right now. I'm not in front of my computer. Don't have email access. And then from there, just, never happens.
Yeah. Usually that would be, there's two things. If you really built enough impact with them in future state, they're going to want to be in front of their computer. So you just don't send the offer, be like, hey, that's not a problem if you're not in front of your computer right now. How soon are you actually going to be in front of your computer? If they say tomorrow, you try to compress that timeline so you can get them there in like 20, 30 minutes. So I'll sit there and I'll ask them, like, where are you right now? Oh, I'm at work. When time do you get off work? Oh, I get off work at this time. All right. Can you block off, 5 minutes sitting in the car? I can actually send it over to your phone and we can go over the agreement. Like I'll try to handle it ways like that. But if you're getting them just pushing you off, typically that's a smoke screen. And so there would have been something that wasn't uncovered in either the obstacles or in the commitment. And I'm going to go over a little bit more of that in a second. Cool.
Okay.
All right. So from there, we stress test the time frame. Now, when we go into influencers, it's important that you do not ask this question like a weirdo. So is anybody here asking the question, are there any other decision makers? Just type in a 1 if you're asking that. Christopher, just a couple of you guys. So that just sounds 1.25. That sounds a little salesy, right? Are there any other decision makers that are involved in this? They know what you're doing. What you're doing is you're triggering that level of awareness of, oh, this person's about to try to close me, because now he's talking about decision makers, right? Might make sense in sort of like a B2B setting, but B2C, you don't want to use that terminology as far as decision makers. So what I want to do is I want to frame that, right? And so the way that I'll frame that is I'll say, hey, look, and I know that this is important for you, and I want to make sure that we get this done for you ASAP and that it's a clean process. So that being said, is there anybody else that would need to be involved that we would need to loop in during this process? Something a little bit more neutral. And so you have to frame why you're asking that question so it doesn't trigger any resistance. Because if you say, is there any other decision maker? They might go, oh, this is a great chance for me to say, no, there's not a decision maker, but then I have to go send it to my wife later, or you know what I mean? Like their awareness goes up, and we want to keep their awareness down when we're in our sales process. So, hey, I want to make sure that we can get this done for you. I want to make sure it's clean so we don't have any back. I know it's important for you to be able to get closer to your kids. So that being said, is there anybody else that would need to be involved in this? Anybody that we would need to loop in so we can just make it a clean shot? We can go over everything together. No, there's not, or yes, there is. If there is, this is where you go ahead and you try to book that other call, depending on if they are on title or if they're not on title. If they're not on title, we're going to try to go ahead and close it and push through it. If they are on title, we're going to go ahead and book that other call. Right. So that's where we go into influencers. So we need to get any of the other decision makers, and we do it a very specific way. You guys type in a 1 if you get that. Type in a 2 if you have questions on that. Looks like you guys are all pretty good. All right, cool. I didn't see any 2s. Maybe you guys were typing too fast. No, you're all 1s. All right, cool. What if they're divorced and don't want to talk to each other? Luis, that's a great question, man. So a divorce, they're typically, the other person's on title and they're like, yeah, but I'm not going to talk to my wife. You say, hey, would you believe me if I told you that that's actually pretty common, that we get people that they're going through divorces, they don't necessarily communicate with each other? Yeah, I guess that would make sense. And would it help if I just share with how we normally like deal with those sort of situations? Yeah, what do you guys do? Look, man, I know the last thing you want to do is talk to your wife right now and get her involved in all of this. And she's probably going to, give you a bunch of grief just because you're the one actually starting the process. So what we've done in the past is if you just give us her number, we'll actually call her and we'll talk to her about everything, make sure that we solve all of her problems. Because my guess is she's probably going to have some different concerns than you, right? Oh, yeah, she's definitely going to have different concerns. Yeah. And wouldn't it help if we just, address those concerns for her instead of having you be the middleman? Oh, yeah, that would help me a lot. All right, cool, man. So what's her number? And then you get the phone number. So if it's a divorce situation, you want to try to shoot for the number. You don't want to try to book another call, especially if they're not on talking terms, because then what happens, and I've had this happen before, they start fighting with each other on the call. I've actually had that happen where a divorced couple, they start fucking yelling at each other and then they get heated and then they hang up and they're like, oh, fuck this guy, fuck this girl, where I'm just not going to sell it. They just try to get vengeance. And so ideally just keep them isolated and try to work one at a time. Cool. All right. And so the next,
John, real quick on that divorce situation, I guess you would try and move forward with the husband and sign while you got him on the phone, or like, how do you handle that? Have you noticed that kickback comes from the spouse?
Yeah, I want to get the husband to sign anyway. So that's where I'll try to push through a partner objection is I'll get the signature from the husband. It's not a valid agreement until the wife signs, but at least I can get the commitment from that person that they are willing to sign. Then I go and I go get the other one. You know what I mean? Otherwise, what could happen is you're like, all right, well, he's like, oh, I'm going to wait till she signs. It's like, all right, now you're trying to battle two people for an agreement where it's a lot easier to just battle one. You know
That's
what I mean?
what I was thinking, but you don't tell the spouse that the other one signed, right? You just,
I don't want.
because it seems like I've had it where it caused me to like lose it because like the spouse found out that he signed and then check with her and then they get into it and then he wants to back out. It's just, I don't know how to handle that.
Yeah. So you could tell them, you could just say, hey, and just so you know, like the reason that he signed this is because he's just waiting on you. It doesn't actually do anything. Like this doesn't solidify anything. We still need your signature on it in order for it to go through. And he did have a concern, like, hey, he wanted to run it by you first, but then he realized like he has to run it by you anyway in order for you guys to move forward. So that's what I'm here. I'm here to help out with this and make sure you guys don't have to deal with each other anymore. Just the way you frame it. Like notice a lot of what I talk about is, yeah, if you're just like, oh, he already signed, go ahead and sign. Oh, he signed without talking to me. That mother effer, you know what I mean? Then they start getting all hostile like that. Makes sense. Framing is a huge part of it.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Now let's talk about the condition. So type in a 1 right now if the way you go through the condition is like you ask questions like what's the condition of the roof? What's the condition of the floors? What's the condition? So I see Chris raising his hand. Type in a 1 if you guys are doing that. I don't see, looks like just a couple of you guys. Like I saw some head nods. I don't really ask about condition. That can be effective if you're really good at getting price. So Arnold, you're doing that a little bit. Here's what happens. If you guys notice when you do that, it can pull them out of that emotional state into a more transactional state. It's like, they're talking about, their wife passing away in the property and the emotions and the stress and maybe like their bills and all these things. And then you go and you pull them out of that and you go, what's the condition of the roof? What's the condition of the HVAC? And then they start getting very, very transactional. You guys ever notice that? And so the way that we want to ask condition is we just want them to give us the things that are the most wrong with the property, like the most likely to actually cause us some trouble. And so I just ask a very simple question with condition, and I'll start to follow a vein a little bit here. So I'll say, hey, we're going to do an inspection on the property. When the report comes back, what do you feel like would likely come up on it? When that report comes back, what do you feel like would likely come up on it? So Chris, can I borrow you for a second, brother? I'm going to show you guys how I will follow a vein if I need to. And sometimes I don't need to. So I want you to tell me that there was a leak in the roof. And then as I start to kind of probe on this, we're going to start to realize that there's more problems. So Chris, when we do an inspection on the property, we're going to do one. When that report comes back, what do you feel like will likely come up on it?
Well, just to be transparent, we had some leaks on the roof recently.
Okay.
But other than that, everything else should be pretty good.
Did it go like all the way through the roof where there's like a water stain on the ceiling?
Yeah, got the brown stain starting to spread. Yeah.
Oh, brown. So like maybe like a little bit of mold?
Possibly. I haven't been up there.
Okay. Yeah, the mold could be a problem. Do you know if that mold has spread it anywhere else in the house, or is it just the mold on the ceiling?
I'm seeing it on just on the ceiling, but there's really no telling.
Okay. And then by any chance, do you know like when the water started dropping from the ceiling, did it also hit the floor, or did it just stop right there on the ceiling?
Yeah, well, we're in Florida, so we had a recent big hurricane, and
Yeah.
I don't see any spots on the floor, but I'm gonna be transparent with you. The spot is spreading, and
Okay.
getting bigger. Like every time I look up at the ceiling, we notice. Me and my wife notice it gets bigger.
All right, let's pause there for a second. Great job, man. Thank you. So notice like I will start following the thread. If they tell me something wrong, I'm going to see if that symptom, because here's what has happened to us in the past is we had a property in Texas and the seller said, well, it's in a flood zone. And my rep was like, all right, cool. I don't care. So he moved on, right? Realistically, she's like, it's in a flood zone. And okay, well, why did you say that? Is it actually flooded? Oh yeah, it did flood, but that was like 2 years ago. All right, when it flooded, like, did you get that fixed? Well, we replaced it, but there's still some water stains on the baseboard. Okay, and the water when it sits, that could cause a little bit of mold. Is there any mold in the house? Well, yeah, there's a little bit of mold. Yeah, you see how like one thing can start to compile into a lot worse things, and so that's kind of the thread you want to follow. Is oh well. There's a couple holes in the wall. What caused the holes in the wall? Well, we had somebody come in, they vandalized the property. All right. And did they just like punch one hole in the wall, or like what did they actually do? And so I'll keep it on the vein of just talking about the bad things with the property. I'm not going to be like, what I want to get away from, this is what you want to be careful with, is the seller will start selling you the property and they'll start pulling out of that problem mindset into like, hey, I'm selling you this. So if you're like, hey, tell me about the condition of the home. Oh my gosh, it's beautiful. We have new glass windows. It's on 3 acres. We got this and we got that. And then they start trying to sell you the property, which puts you in the wrong seat, right? Where we want to just highlight the problems. And so the way I ask that question is I just very simply say, we're going to do an inspection on the property. When the report comes back, what do you feel like will likely come up on it? All right. So type in a 1 if you guys get that. Type in a 2 if you have questions about how to get the condition. I want to make sure everybody's good on the same page. Eli, what's up, man?
Yeah, so that will definitely give you some of the bigger problems, but what about like the small stuff? So like my favorite question to ask about condition is, when did you last remodel the property? Because the seller will say the kitchen's great, maybe some paint, but they haven't upgraded in 30 years.
Yeah, you can ask that question. A lot of times I'll get like a pretty good feel for that. Like in most areas, unless you're super rural, you have a lot of the pictures from Zillow. And so you could like, I'll just ask a simple question. Hey, I saw it was built in the 90s. Did you do anything? Like, did you make any improvements since then? Or is it all pretty much the same? No, it's all pretty much the same. Then I'll go back into those things. So that's not a bad question to ask if you're really trying to figure out the condition. I mean, I can tell you that it almost doesn't matter, because no matter if the property is like built in the 90, like built in the 2000s, right? So let's say it's built in 2005 or it's built in the 70s. An investor that's going to flip it is pretty much going to come in and remodel the house. Like most of the time, that's what they're going to do. Now, where it can matter is if you start to pivot into a novation, then you want to ask a little bit more questions like, hey, like how bad is this thing? And so I usually don't do that until I'm on hold pitching a novation. And that's where I'll ask those like kind of final questions to see if I can get them to give me more details about the property. The biggest thing you want to be careful of, though, is, like I said, is just getting them into that transactional mindset of they're like, oh, well, I just remodeled this and I did this and this is beautiful. And let me tell you about this and that and this and that. Right. That'd be my only concern. So as long as you're not getting that, then you're going to be good, bro.
Right. Because like in Chicago, we have a number of issues that you really have to like look at, which is number one, like AC, right? Because these properties built into the 1900s, there's like boiler heat, which is a big difference between, cutting open walls, putting in air vents.
Yep.
Same thing with like basement height, second floor height, garages. So there's really like a lot of information I need about condition.
So what I would recommend that you do is you do that on your hold. So next week, we're going to be talking about the commitment phase and then putting them on hold. And so you put them on hold. And then when you're doing your due diligence on the property on the hold, that's where I would start asking those questions after you got the commitment, right? So you want to get that commitment first, then I can go back and ask some of those further questions. If you really do need to ask those things, it's not going to come up on every property, but like, yeah, if it's built in the early 1900s, you're going to have to ask those questions, and you figure that out when you're on hold. I would prefer to do it there.
Okay.
Cool. Chris, what's up, brother?
Hey, what's up, man? Great information, by the way. So typically when you go over condition, is that like at the end before you start getting into the offer? Because because typically when we do condition, and of course my ways and your ways are totally different. Like I can tell that I'm more transactional, and that's probably why we're losing a lot of deals, and you're more trying to get them on the emotional standpoint. So you don't need a lot of information on condition. You're getting one problem and you're diving in on that one problem, and then you don't move on to another issue and you transition, or do you?
I mean, it depends. Like if I say what's likely going to come up and they say, well, the foundation is cracked and it's missing windows and there's no roof on it. Like I'm going to dive into all of those things. Yes. But what I don't want to do is I don't want to say, when's the last time you replaced the floors? When's the last time you updated the kitchen? What do the bathrooms look like? What do the windows look like? Because that will pull them very transactional. And I also don't want to do it at the beginning of the call, because then it starts the call off transactional. It's really hard to get them back into the emotional. So if I open up the call and I say, hey, tell me about the condition of the house, then they're going to be like, okay, well, this is the condition of the house. And then you have to switch to why are you looking to sell? And it's like such a hard 180 switch that it makes it very difficult to actually get into problem impact. And so I like to get into my problem impact, my future state, my anchor. I like to do all of that stuff before I ever talk about the condition. So I get all of those bottom dollar needs. I get everything. Then I just breeze through the condition. And my main goal with the condition is just to not put them into this transactional, like, hey, I'm talking about all the good things with the house. I want them focused on the negative things. That's going to bring them even a little bit lower in their mind. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's awesome. And that's dope, because our script is made to go, connection or whatever, introduction. And then we go into, okay, well, tell me about the property. And then from there, well, it sounds like a great property. Why are you looking to sell? And then
you get hit with a lot of that, like resistance, right?
Yeah. That makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah, so you try to pull it towards the end of your call. Great question. Josh Martinez, what's up, man?
Yeah, when you mentioned that there's going to be inspections, do you get any pushback on that at all? No. All right.
No. Hey, we're going to do an inspection on the property. Like, well, why? I thought there was no inspections. Like, man, anybody that's going to buy your property, and we could do it without an inspection, but you want the top dollar, right? Well, if you want the top dollar, we have to do an inspection. Otherwise, we have to figure like the worst case scenario for everything. And I'm sure everything's not like completely bad, right? No, everything's not completely bad. Or they say it's a tear down. You're like, all right, well, we can run it off a tear down. That's fine. But I've never gotten pushback from telling them that we're going to do an inspection.
Yeah, I didn't think so, because I know like if you're doing all the pre-work before you get to the door, it should be like pretty smooth transition with that, right?
Correct. There's a reason why we're doing this at the end, because like by this point, you shouldn't be getting very many objections if you did your sales process correctly.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
Cool. David Ludina, and then I'll go to Shawnee.
Sorry, what was that novation question? So you answered that already for me or for somebody
Oh.
else, but yeah, thanks, man.
Cool. Shawnee, what's up?
Yeah, real quick. I had a little pushback where a gentleman was kind of confused. Like after the guy, I had boots on the ground, take the pictures, and then I needed somebody to go back by, of course, the buyer to take a look at it. And it happened like 2 or 3 times. And he was kind of upset that we were visiting so many times. And, you know, how do you, I guess, prepare them that this may happen? Or how do you like verbalize that so they can set the expectations in the front or, you know,
Yeah.
just reduce some of that on the back end? Because he was ready to pull out the deal.
Yeah, what we do is we do a handoff. And so when we hand it off to Dispo, the Dispo resets all the expectations. So like, for example, if it's a novation, we literally say, hey, you know, the property is going to be on the MLS, right? If they say no, like our acquisitions is on that call too. So it's like, all right, Jamari, why did you not tell him? All right, Mike, why did you not tell him? You know what I mean?
What if you solo?
Yeah, if you're solo, you're just going to do it yourself. So you're going to go, all right, now that we're talking about the next steps, here's what's going to happen from here. First thing we're going to do is we're going to have our investors start to walk through it. Ideally, we can get them in and out like maybe 2 times. However, I'm just going to let you know every once in a while, there's other things that come up with the property and we're going to need 4 times of access. Now, what we're going to do now is we're just going to schedule the first time for people to come see it. When's your best availability? And so you need to set that expectation right when you get it signed. You're only mentioning an inspection if you've already came to an agreement on price. No, Arnold. I will mention an inspection when I'm going into condition before we even got into the price. Cool. Anybody else have any questions on that?
If you're a 2-man team, do you suggest someone else on the team do it, or do you suggest you do it yourself after they sign when it comes to the inspection?
For a 2-man, like does somebody? I know your partner, Mo is your partner, right?
Yeah,
Do one of you guys do Dispo and one of you guys do AC?
we both do act.
Who does Dispo?
Most times we partner with someone else.
Yeah.
a third party.
So in general, I would have somebody, if I'm running it with partners, I would have one person be responsible for one thing and the other person be responsible for the other. That doesn't mean that like he can't hop in and do sales calls, because the most important thing at the beginning is just getting contracts, throwing revenue up on the board. But
Yeah.
if that means that someone's ultimately responsible for hitting your contract goal, and so that might be Mo, it might be you. And then for Dispo, somebody's ultimately responsible for that main point of contact. What I wouldn't have is I wouldn't have like each one of you guys just like your partners, but you do AC and you do Dispo on your own deals. Just seems kind of messy. You know what I mean? I would want you to actually do a handoff and that person be responsible for taking it to close.
I got it. Okay.
Yeah, good question. Anybody else have any questions before we do a little bit of a recap and go to the Q&A? All right, cool. Let's do a little recap, guys. So you go out of your needs, right? And so this is where, do you see how this will help you? Yeah, see how it would put me in a better position. How soon would you like to get this done so you don't have to deal with XYZ anymore? I'd like to get it done in 3 weeks. Are you sure you're going to be able to get all your stuff out in 3 weeks? And this is where, we go over this a lot more in depth inside the advanced group of like preventing objections. But you guys are going to hear stuff at the beginning of your call. This is the time to bring that up when you're doing that stress test. So like, for example, if I heard the seller say at the beginning of the call that it's a probate property and there's 5 other people, like I'm going to bring that up right now. This is where I overcome all of the obstacles. If I hear him say, I've got 5 other offers and I'm shopping offers or I'm waiting to hear back from other companies, I'm going to try to overcome that right now. I'm going to try to overcome it in my obstacles. Same thing with influencers, right? So I do my stress test. So you're sure you're going to be able to get your stuff out in time. A lot of times like sellers get super overwhelmed right here and they're like, I don't know. And you're like, all right, well, walk me through. What stuff do you have? What's your biggest concern? What is the worst case scenario? And so you want to get in their head and figure out like, okay, what are they actually worried about? And so, for example, like we had a seller, we do this very often actually, where the seller's like, I just have so much stuff. I don't even know what I'm going to do with everything. Why don't you call me back in 2 weeks so I can just go through my stuff? I'll get the property cleaned out. and then we can start talking about closing. I go, okay, that's actually like one of the most common things that we hear. Would it help if I share with you how we've helped other people? Yeah, that would help. So typically there's 3 categories of stuff. There's the stuff you're going to take with you. There's the stuff that you're not sure about. And then there's the stuff you're sure you are going to throw away, right? Is there anything that doesn't fall in those 3 categories? No, you pretty much nailed it. So this is what we would do is we would hire a moving company to come out there for you. First thing, the stuff you're going to take with you, you just point your finger. They're going to put that in a box. It's going to come with you to the next house. Second thing is there's some things you just don't know, right? Family heirlooms. You're like, I don't really want to throw them away. Maybe I'll have a use for this later. Those go in a separate box and those go into the storage unit. And the third thing, you're like, okay, grandma or Auntie Alice used to collect bubblegum wrappers and I'm just going to throw those away. So we're just going to take those to the dump for you. So that typically takes care of like all of the main things. Do you see how that would help you? Yes, I see how that would help me. All right, cool. That's not a problem. I can put that in the agreement. And if it looks like we can help you out with this, I can actually go over that with you when we go over the agreement. So fair enough? Fair enough. So that's what it actually sounds like in practice, right? Then we go with influencers. Who else would need to know? We'll do some more training on this probably a little bit later, but if you guys haven't seen any of the objection prevention stuff, I highly recommend you go watch that because sometimes you're going to get a partner objection here and you need to know how to actually overcome that. And then last thing is condition. We say, hey, when we do our inspection, it's going to come back. What's going to be the things that are going to come up on the report? It's probably going to be this. We kind of follow that vein down till we get the condition. And then that brings us to next week, which we're going to talk about stress tests and commitment. This has been like one of the number one things I've been working on with my team this last week. So last week we locked up 6 contracts. We usually lock up 4. But just from working on this stress test and commitment, I think we're at 3 contracts so far this week. So we'll probably do another 6 this week. And the reason that we're closing so like at a higher percentage this last couple of weeks is we've just been working on that closing process. It's like really dialing in the obstacles, dialing in the stress test and commitment, and dialing in that one call close. And so that's been really impactful for us. And I want you guys to make sure that you're giving the offer when you have them at the highest point. Because if you're calling them back 30 minutes later and trying to give them the offer, they've lost all their motivation. Like they've moved on mentally. They've just gone somewhere else. Yeah, I'll give you that mirror board, Luis. David, what's up, brother?
Real quick, and I know you've done this in the advanced group, but for the benefit of those here, when you have to re-engage because you couldn't do the one call close, how much problem impact future stating are you doing before you launch into your actual offer?
Enough to get them back in that emotional state. So I have to at least open it up and be like, hey, and I am looking at this with my team right now. As they're working on this, remind me again, what caused you to want to look into this? Ask maybe a few more clarifying and probing questions. It's just like, if you go about it that way, you're doing a inferior process. And so it's like, all right, well, what should I do if I do it the wrong way? It's kind of the question, you know what I mean? So like you can still do it. You can still go back and get the emotional impact, but like I guarantee you the first thing in your guys' head is like, well, what questions do I ask? Aren't they going to say like, aren't they going to wonder why I'm asking questions about something that I just answered 30 minutes ago? And the answer is yes, they are going to be wondering that. It is going to be a lot more difficult, which is why we shoot for the one call close process, right? But if you have to, like, especially if it's like a day later for whatever reason, then just go back in enough to get emotional impact, reconfirm the future state, reconfirm the needs, and then go reconfirm commitment and present the offer from there.
Cool. Thanks.
Great question, man. All right, let's go into Q&A inside the group. Let's see what we got. And then we'll go into, you guys can just ask questions. So qualified Emoda to offer. Jared, are you on right now, brother?
Yeah.
All right, let me read your question. I'm having trouble hitting my KPIs on Emoda leads to offer because I'm not able to get the seller through the full NPQ process. Some sellers think my anchor is the offer and hang up. They stop me in the middle of my process by saying, so how many more questions do you need? I usually get this from investors, tenant vacant property leads. I have the issue as well, so I try to spend more time in the beginning. What is your qualified lead to offer right now?
My qualified lead to offer, I think this week is probably like 4 to 1.
What is it? For this week is too little. What is it total?
Total, let me check my KPIs. I remember I had, because I get like 40 leads a month, so like 2 a day. I think I qualified. I haven't called yet today, but since Monday and Tuesday, I think 4 qualified and I gave 1 offer. The other ones, I think I just probably more of the solution phase. They kind of
Mhm.
like cut me off and saying like, well,
But
that
what are your
question mark.
metrics? Like go back last quarter and tell me what your qualified lead to offer is.
So last quarter I wasn't doing this system, so I just started like running my KPIs like this month.
Okay, what about this month from October 1st to the 8th? You're about 25%.
Here, let me see. Let me pull it up right now. So right now it's qualifies 50%. So I got
Yeah,
14
qualified
net
leads. Yeah, how many net leads? How many offers?
So 14 net leads, 7 qualified. Oh, there were 1 offer.
You have 14 net leads and 1 offer.
Oh, 14 net leads that they want to sell. Yeah, I'm kind of messing up right there.
14 net leads that did want to sell.
Yeah, that want to sell. Yeah,
That want to sell, and you made 1 offer.
yeah.
Yeah, that's very low. I would have to hear your call, bro. I would have to hear a call to figure out what's going on there. My assumption, based on what you're telling me, is that your tone is way off, or the way you're framing your questions is extremely off. And so what's happening is people are like starting to feel annoyed. And so that will happen if you're doing things like this. Role play with me for a second. The house, do you live there? Is it a rental? What's going on with it?
Oh, it's vacant right now.
Okay. Gotcha. It's vacant. And how long has it been vacant?
It's been vacant for like a year now.
Okay, gotcha. So it's been vacant for a year. And what are you doing to keep up with the maintenance of the house?
I'm not like really doing anything.
So that if you're asking questions like that, they're gonna feel like it's like an interview, and they're gonna get frustrated and they're gonna want to get off the phone, right? Where if you ask the questions, oh really? Hold on, how long has it been vacant though? Wait, so it's been vacant for a year. Have you done anything to keep up with the maintenance of the house? Like you hear the difference in my tone. That's going to get me much better answers for my question. So I have an entire doc. This is something I can't really share this here, but it's in our advanced group. And so if my net lead to appointment is low, I'm going to be listening. Like my step 2 is listen to the last 10 sales calls, look for key areas in the process that we might be missing. Did I lower the resistance in the first 7 seconds? Did I trigger it? Did I hear the real problem? Did I clarify on it? Like those are the things that I go through and I diagnose when that's the constraint inside of my business. So my assumption based on what you're telling me is mostly tonality. It's your tone. If you have 14 people that want to sell, you should have at least 6 offers on those 14 people. You should have been able to get through the entire process on at least 6 of them.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah, thank you. Because I remember I have 14 that want to sell, and the ones that meet Moda was like 7.
And you should be able to make 7 offers on all of them.
Okay, yeah, appreciate you, John.
Sounds like it's a tone thing. Probate initiated, but seller has initiated the probate process by paying $3,700 to an attorney. Has a $500 remaining payment needed for the attorney to initiate the court process, and there's no telling how long this would take. Oh yeah, I think I answered this already, Shawnee. You can go ahead and contract it and have and they're gonna have to redo the contract once it's through the probate process. But I would try to get them to commit and sign now, even though it's not done. We've done that a lot.
Yeah, I actually went through it. Aaron never called me back. And I saw that recently. You said he's probably not taking any new clients, but it sounds like he made initial payments to the attorney, but the probate hasn't been initiated. So I'm going to try and do an heirship affidavit or something like that. Have you heard of that process? Are y'all froze? Or is it me?
Yeah, it looks like John froze.
Oh, it's John. I'm like, am I tripping?
But to answer your question, what state are you in?
I'm in Alabama.
Do you guys?
Oh, I can hear you now, John.
All right,
You're
cool.
in and out, John.
Yeah, while we're waiting for that internet to get fixed, Aaron's not responding to anybody. It's not just you. He's super busy right now.
Yeah, no worries. Airship or affidavit, do you know, like, can I go that route if the probate hasn't been initiated?
You have to talk to Austin about that. He takes care of all the back end dispo stuff. I don't do anything for my company for dispo.
Okay.
I would ask the
Shiny.
company too. They should be able to tell you.
That is the easier process if all the heirs are on board. It's basically some paperwork and title handles the majority. That's in Texas. But it is a lot easier process than your traditional thing. But
Will the
reach out
buyer
to me
get a
later.
clean, would a buyer get a clean title? Do you know?
Yeah,
Wow.
it's basically
Okay.
just some paperwork. It's just some extra paperwork, but all the heirs have to be on board, and all the heirs want to have to move forward. There is some, there's a few things that you have to do, but it is an easy process.
Okay. Thanks.
All right, I'm gonna see if I can log back on. Somehow my Ethernet just went out. Well, let's find out. Josh, what's up, dude?
Yeah, so when it comes to the objection prevention, like pretty much like if they say, hey, I'm just gonna rent it or list it with an agent, does that objection prevention come between the problem impact?
No, objection prevention would happen inside of obstacles after needs.
Okay, yeah, so pretty much those questions are gonna come along with that phase of it, like what have you tried so far?
Yeah, so like objection, there's a YouTube video I did recently that you guys should go check out. It's called Pillars versus Tools. Let me just see if I can find it. I don't remember what it's called. I think it's called like Watch This and You Won't Need a Script Again or something like that. Let me see if I can find
I
this
would
video.
look for it. I have it
Yeah.
in my since July.
Oh, I got it right here already.
I think
I
I
would
watched-
watch this video. It will help you understand. It'll help you understand the difference between like what you need to do on every call versus what you need to do sometimes. So I just dropped it in the chat. Because like, I'm not going to ask that question every single time. I'm going to ask that question when I need to ask it. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I can start to sense that there's going to be an objection. So like if I know that I'm going to get a multiple quotes objection, I'm going to handle it. If I haven't heard anything about multiple quotes, I'm just going to skip through it.
Oh, okay, I got you. Yeah, because like in the beginning, when you're asking, hey, like what had you want to look into a cash offer or whatever, we're just talking about how they don't want to work with an agent. So,
Yeah, I'm not going to ask like, what's
Yeah.
the main reason that you're going this route versus an agent? It's like
Yeah.
they likely already told me something in my sales process to make that apparent.
Okay. And if they don't bring it up, do you still kind of like just kind of get ahead of it just so it won't be an objection later on? Like if they don't talk about fixing it or renting it, like, hey, like pretty much giving them that option so they can say no.
This is where your sales EQ has to come in. Some sellers you're gonna actually be curious why they don't list it, and that's when I would ask that.
Mhm.
Some sellers you're gonna be like, oh, this is very apparent why they don't list it on the market, so I'm not gonna ask.
Okay.
That's why I call that a tool and not a pillar.
Okay, I got you. Thank you.
Cool. Shawnee.
Yeah, just to piggyback, when you start initiate the call, similar to Josh's question, and they say that I'm waiting on offers or I got offers and that kind of thing, and you work through that towards the end of the call when you're doing need anchor consequence, how do you reapproach that so that you don't get an objection from that?
When I don't do it in needs anchor consequence. I mean, the main thing that I want to do is when I do the anchor, I say, hey, I know that you're mentioned that you're getting other offers. Let's say that all the offers came back at XYZ price. Would you still be able to? And then I repeat back what they're trying to do. So that's
all the offers come in at. Okay.
Yeah, that will help you with preventing that objection.
Got it.
Cool. Luis, what's up, man?
Yeah, quick question. So I had an objection during the connection phase where I told the seller, we work with 100 investors, REITs, etc., blah blah blah. And then he hit me with the, well, telling your investors to call him. He's like, I'm only speaking to serious investors. Like how would
Yeah.
you overcome that from the beginning?
I'd say, yeah, that's actually why I'm on the phone. These investors, like they won't hop on the phone with sellers. And so that's my job, is to figure out if this is something that they would buy. And if it is, I can give you the best offer possible. You with me there?
Yeah. I just want to talk to serious investors. I'm not wasting my time with anybody else.
Yeah, man. Can I ask you, brother, if I wasn't a serious investor, do you think I'd want to waste my time talking to you?
Yeah, well, I've got so many calls that, I'm done talking to people. I'm only talking to serious investors, telling investors to call me. Thanks.
Yeah. So you didn't sign up to get like 50 calls a day on this?
No.
Yeah.
Got it.
A lot of the people that we've helped in the past, man, have said the same thing. And I'll just be honest, like if this doesn't look like something that we're going to buy, we'll just tell you, but I'm not even sure yet if it is something that we're going to buy. So what I could do is just ask you some basic questions about like the condition of the home when you're looking to sell. And if it looks like something we can offer on, then I'll go through that with you. Would that help?
Sure. Perfect. Thanks.
Yeah. Simple,
No
easy,
problem.
pretty easy objection prevention.
Yeah. All right. Thanks.
Hayden, what's up, man? Hayden Pike.
Oh, my bad. My internet just glitched. Hey, so when you go through needs and someone gives you, a number that you're not going to be able to get to, and you go through like your process and, it just can't to like the actual offer, do you just try to overcome it after you give it with like have you ever considered like hanging on to that amount is actually the one thing that's holding you back? Is that how you handle that situation?
Correct. Yeah. I want you guys to understand that like the goal is to be able to get the needs down as low as possible. Like basically you want to get their bottom dollar needs, and ideally it lines up with what you can buy the house for. But if it doesn't, don't freak out. You still like think about what you were doing previously. You were probably getting the asking price, which was always higher than what you could pay, and you were still giving offers, right?
Correct.
And,
Yeah.
And every once in a while, one would get accepted. And so, like, if you're not able to get down to the bottom dollar needs on the needs anchor consequence part, that doesn't mean you should just like give up and not give an offer. It's like, yeah, I'll try to go through some more objection handling, like you just said. But then at the end of the day, I'm still going to give the offer. And then I'm going to work on my objection handling at the end. I'm just going to overcome it as a price objection.
Okay.
Makes sense. Kyle, what's up, dude?
How do you go about dealing with like older people, like in their 80s and 90s? Do you ask for relatives or do you just go into your regular sales pitch?
No, I just go to my regular process unless they tell me like they've got Alzheimer's or something. Like if they tell me like I can't remember what I did this morning, I'm like, all right, well, you're not going to remember signing an agreement. Then I'll get relatives. But as long as they're coherent, like we buy houses from people in their 80s and 90s all the time.
Okay, wow, okay. You never ran into challenges with like dealing with someone older and then relatives they're saying there's no one else that helps
Yeah,
them
I
make
have.
decisions?
I have, yeah, for sure. And I've had to let contracts go because of that. But if I go and try to get their family involved and their family doesn't need to be involved, I have no shot at closing that deal. So I will go ahead and I'll lock it up. And the only time I'll actually start pushing for relatives if I hear something like, hey, I'm not able to take care of myself. They don't remember who I am when I call. Like they're like it's very apparent that they have Alzheimer's. Then I'll go ahead and ask for relatives, because you literally can't actually sign an agreement with them. Or if they have somebody else that has POA for them, then yes, I will get relatives. But other than that, no, I'll treat them the same way. I don't discriminate against age. Cool.
Well, cool. Thanks.
Jared, and then Chris, and then Lay. La.
Yeah, hey John, I got a quick question about, so let's say like you mess up, like you don't frame right, and they ask you the objection, like, why are you asking me these questions? How can I like overcome that?
So that's like my I'm not like dogging on you by any means, but like when you guys ask me, let's say I did something incorrectly, what do I do? It's like, I'm going to tell you to work on that thing that you did incorrectly. That's going to be the thing that I would tell you to work on. Because I don't want to start training you like, oh, well, it's tolerable for you not to do the process correctly, right? You're like, oh, I didn't get a one call close and now I have to go back and give the offer. That's why I was like, just do it correctly the first time is my answer to that. That being said, I will give you something is I just go, man, I'm just curious. If you say I'm just curious, a lot of times they'll just open up. Oh, where are you headed next? Why are you asking that question? That's not relevant. I'm just curious. Well, I'm going over to Texas. Like that's the way you can bounce back from that. But I would focus on the core problem.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, cool. Chris. All right. There he is.
Yeah. So what do you do when I guess you're down to the offer phase and you have somebody stuck on a certain price and they just, they feel offended by the low anchor? I know you have a couple of price objection. Can you just give me maybe like one or two price objection?
I'll give you the principles of a price objection. And it's what is like, first off, what are you trying to accomplish? I'm going to go back to the needs. So they say, no, I'm not going to sell it for that price. Well, could the $50,000 actually help you get to XYZ result? They're going to say, yeah, it could, but I'm not going to sell it for that price. Well, why do you feel like it could? Well, I feel like it could because I could put XYZ down. All right. And so it sounds like that's the most important thing, though, is being able to get closer to your family. Yes, that's the most important thing. So what feels riskier at this point? Is it pushing it off, waiting till you get that number, knowing that's not guaranteed? Or is it taking what you need now so you can actually get that time with your family? That's a price objection.
That's hard.
La, what's up, man?
I have a objection yesterday. It's more like a price and decision maker objections. So I presented my offer, and then I need a stress test. So to find out for the deal killer that he was like, I need to talk to my son, my daughter. He's 87. So how do you move away from? I try to pull out what's the reason why he wanted to talk, because I offered like 225. He wanted 300. Later on, I found it out, but he still insists to talk to the son or daughter. So I don't know, like, how do you handle that?
I would just go through a standard partner objection. So let's say that they said yes, would you do it?
Oh, okay.
Yes, I would do it. Why would you do it? Or they say no, I wouldn't do it. You know what I mean? So that's just a standard partner objection that I would go through. If you go through the partner objection, you're going to understand if it's a price objection or if it's a real partner objection.
I think it's a price objection. He insists to talk to the son, and was like, okay, son.
Well, if you ask that question, you'll know for sure. Hey, let's say they say yes, would you do it? He'll say no, I wouldn't do it. Why wouldn't you do it? Because of the price.
Yeah.
Then you're going to understand it's a price objection.
Okay. Well, I think that I found that out yesterday as well. I just couldn't do 300. I just need to drop him a little bit more. But he just like, I need to go. So
got to build that problem impact. Lee Artist, I have time for one more. I got a quick one. You want to come off mute, bro? All right. I don't know if you're muted or what's going on. Yep, still can't hear you. All right, cool. I got to jump into the advanced group call, guys. If you guys need anything from me, let me know. Otherwise, we'll see you guys all next week. Bye, everybody.